Hello friends from Gang Theories here, and in today's video we're going to be discussing some of my concerns for Doctor Who Series 13. But before we get into it, if you could just do me a teeny tiny little favour and click that subscribe button. We're trying to get 10k by the end of the year, and I honestly believe that with your support we can make it happen. Thank you for listening to this and enjoy this video. So last night, a rumour came out that the Autons may well be returning for Series 13, judging by the fact that the word Autons could be seen on the side of a bus, and the fact that there was some filming crew around, basically confirming the idea that the Autons could well be back. Now this could just be one big coincidence, but it would be a hell of a coincidence if it was. And this got me to think more about some of my concerns for Doctor Who Series 13, perhaps the biggest being that it's going to be too reliant on nostalgia. Now this is an issue that Doctor Who has suffered with a lot during its lifetime. I think it was very prevalent in the Stephen Moffat era in particular, and it began to become more prevalent with Series 12, with the return of the Master, the Cybermen, Gallifrey being destroyed, and things of that nature. It began to seal the idea that Doctor Who is becoming very reliant on its past iconography in order to stay afloat. And I fear that Series 13 is going to carry on this sentiment, as now we've basically had confirmed the Weeping Angels, the Sontarans, and the Autons, with presumably a Dalek finale somewhere at the end of the series. And let's not forget that Series 13 is only going to be comprised of 8 episodes as opposed to the usual 10, meaning that already half of the villains roster for Series 13 is going to be comprised of old villains. And I fear that the returning villains of this series and the returning iconography of this series is going to overshadow the characters, particularly Dan, who is a brand new character to the TARDIS team in Series 13, which we will return to in a second. Plus, we have to remember that this series is going to have to deal with the Timeless Child in some capacity. I don't think it's just going to be left as it is. I don't know what they are going to do with it, but I'd be very surprised if it wasn't at least mentioned in some capacity, which would at least open the door for the Ruth Doctor to come back, as well as the Master and his army of Cybermasters, who were implied to have escaped at the end of Timeless Children. So that would take the villain toll to about 6 old villains in Series 13. Now that's speculation on my behalf, but I don't think it's unfounded speculation, because I highly doubt they're not going to bring back Sacha Dhawan's Master after how successful he was in Series 12. He was one of the few things about that series that I think the majority of fans quite liked, so they'd be kind of silly not to bring him back in some capacity. But it begs the question, what's this series going to do that's actually new? Is it going to have enough time to focus on the characters that quite frankly need some focus? We're having a brand new character in the form of Dan, who I mentioned earlier. We're having Yaz, who's now entering her 3rd series on the TARDIS, and she still doesn't really feel that developed. And we've got a 13th Doctor who may well be regenerating at the end of the series. There's a lot to focus on character-wise, and I just fear that Series 13 is going to crumble under the weight of its own ambitions. Speaking of Dan, though, I want to talk about him and my concerns for him a little bit. Now, I hope that Dan is a new form of life to this TARDIS team. I've felt like the TARDIS team needs a shake-up for a long time now, and I'm glad that we're finally getting it. However, my concern is that he's just going to be a retread of Graham, because he is playing essentially a very similar character in that he's the older guy. He's a bit of a working class sort of funny man type character from what we've seen, especially considering that John Bishop himself is a comedian. He seems quite similar in concept to Graham, and my concern is just that he's going to be a retread of Graham, where he's like the older, wiser figure on the TARDIS who Yaz can confide in and stuff like that. Not saying that will be the case, but that seems to be what they're going for, at least to me. I'd be happily proven wrong there, but that seems to be what is being set up. And my concern with that is it's just going to start to feel very the same if we've got Graham 2 in the TARDIS, basically filling out the same function as Bradley Walsh did. And along with my concerns about Dan, my concern is that Dan is going to take up so much time that Yaz isn't going to get any development, because we have to set up an entirely new companion when we've already got a companion that, let's face it, hasn't been developed that well in the first place. And I really thought they were going to take some more time in Series 13 to develop Yaz. Now that could still be the case, but I just feel like Dan is going to end up having the majority of the focus, which will be a bit of a shame considering that, as I said, Yaz is entering her 3rd year and I still don't feel like we know 100% who this character is. She definitely has potential, but that potential means nothing if it's not expanded upon. Another concern that I have is the sheer abundance of Earthbound stuff that we've seemed to have seen so far. Now, I made a video previously talking about why I would like to see Doctor Who go off-world a bit more. I'll leave a little card in the corner. But from what we've seen, the Weeping Angel episode takes place on Earth, the Sontaran episode seemingly takes place on Earth, and now this supposed Auton episode is also taking place on Earth, which again means almost half of the episodes are taking place on Earth, which I really am not a fan of. I really want the show to go to space a bit more. I understand it's a budgetary thing, and I understand COVID's a thing, but also, like, I've got a green screen right behind me now. It doesn't work because I haven't got the lighting, but you get the idea. It's a lot easier these days to film in a studio and make it look a lot more like space. So I really hope we don't just end up in Liverpool for the majority of it, because it's just going to be really boring. I guess my final concern is that with it being Jodie's last series, I really want her to finally have her time in the spotlight, because there's been little moments so far where I've been like, okay, yeah, you convinced me, you're the Doctor.
Because sometimes this team structure isn't flat. It's mountainous, with me at the summit, in the stratosphere, alone.
But they're so few and far between, and I really want her to nail the part for me this time. And I just feel like with the reintroduction of so many classic villains, as well as the introduction of a new companion, that the focus is once again going to be taken away from the Doctor. I hope that I'm wrong about all this, and I hope that Series 13 turns out to be an improvement upon Series 12. But the way it's looking, I do have a lot of concerns for it. But let me know what your guys' concerns are for Doctor Who Series 13. I'd be interested to see, as I think we've all got some different concerns. But also, let me know what your hopes are as well. Let's try and be as optimistic as we can. I just hope that it's better than Series 12. If it's better than Series 12, I think that's about as much as I could have asked for, because I'm not a huge fan of this era. But if it at least improves, I'll take it. But I can't really see it. But I hope I'm proven wrong. But as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, be sure to give it a like, comment down below your thoughts, and subscribe if you're new. Thank you for watching, and I will see you later.